Hey Maple people, how's it going? On today's video, we are doing a part 2 of My City Roll and Build from Kosmos. This is a game for 1 to 6 players, takes ages 10 and up, and takes about 20 minutes to play. We just finished the entire campaign for My City Roll and Build, and this is a campaign that you could probably do in a day if you dedicated the time to it, but what fun would that be, instead of just letting it extend. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about it and give our kind of final thoughts on it. Spoiler warnings, so there's some stuff that if you don't want to know about, we create videos all the time, so I will make another one soon, so just skip this one. And yeah, so Sarah, would you like to tell us a little bit more about and your experience with My City Roll and Build?
Sure. So like Nick said, this is a game that's for 1 to 6 players, takes about 20 minutes to play, and that's like sort of per game. But the overall game consists of 12 different games. They're split up into episodes. So for example, this first one here is episodes or games 1 to 3. It's called Chapter 1, The New Land. There are 4 chapters in the campaign, each of them consisting of 3 episodes for a total of 12 episodes, 4 chapters. Each game or each episode is just a little bit different than the one before it. So it's sort of got like this campaign game feel to it. And at the end of all 12 of the episodes, all 4 of the chapters, then you've played through like the entire campaign. Like Nick said, this is going to be a spoilers video, so it's not spoiler free. If you want to discover this one for yourself, like he said, maybe go watch a different video and come back to this one when you've finished playing through the My City Roll and Build campaign for yourself. So like I said, there are 4 chapters. The first one is called The New Land, and it basically introduces us to the game. We learn sort of the basics about the game, what we're doing in the game, and that covers 3 episodes, each of which gets a little bit more, adds a little bit more to the game as we play. By the end of the 3rd episode, we're ready to go on to Chapter 2, The Churches, which is episodes 4 through 6. Again, each one of these episodes will add something new or change things around just a little bit. At the end of Chapter 2, we move on to Chapter 3, Challenges, which is episodes 7 through 9. In Challenges, we are encountering challenges, as you might have guessed. So the river has flooded, so it's a little bit bigger at this point. We're also in need of money to continue our building, so we're trying to acquire money by meeting different objectives. However, that money does begin to attract bandits, which is Chapter 4, the last 3 episodes of the game, episodes 10 through 12. And in that one, we are dealing with bandits who have come for all of the wealth and prosperity that they've seen developing in our city. We build forts in response to these bandits and attempt to capture them by building like completely around them. So that is sort of like a super quick overview of the 12 episodes that we see in the My City Roll and Build game. At the end of each game, and this is where the sort of more spoilers are going to come into play because I'm going to actually show you some of the stuff. At the end of each game, you total your score for that game, and then at the end of each chapter, you score your chapter score. Then, at the end of the entire campaign, you score for this episode and this chapter, chapter 12 and, episode 12 and chapter 4, and then you do a total score of all of the 12 games that you've played, all 12 episodes, all 4 chapters leading up to this very final game, and you get like a campaign score. And then across the people who are playing the campaign with you, whoever has the highest score wins the campaign. So for every game there is, every episode, which is a game, there is a winner. For every chapter, which there are 4 of in the campaign, there's a chapter winner. And then for the whole entire thing, the whole entire campaign, there's a winner. So that's kind of a quick overview of like what the campaign sort of looks like in this game. We talked a little bit about how you play this game in our first video, so if you want to know more information about what you're actually doing, like in the game itself, you can go back and check out our first video on this. It does stay pretty constant throughout the whole campaign. You're pretty much doing the same thing, which is rolling these dice to generate shapes, putting those shapes on your board, trying to fill up your board and cross out certain things while not crossing out other things on your board. It does change a little bit over the course of the campaign. So like I said, in that last chapter, we were dealing with the bandits and building forts. So like it does change a little bit. At the beginning of the game, if you roll this symbol on the dice, it doesn't mean anything. But then in the second chapter about the churches, if you roll this symbol, then you build churches. Then if I remember correctly, in the third chapter, the challenges chapter, this die doesn't do anything. And then in the fourth chapter about the bandits, when you roll this dice, that's when you're prompted to build forts. So this die result has different functions that it serves throughout the course of the campaign, which changes things up a little bit. And every one of these sort of maps is a little bit different than the one prior. So we started out with a map that looked like this, very simple. There's some trees and rocks and this river here. By the end of the game, though, while the map looked similar, we still had the trees and the rocks and the river and things like that. We had also started to add more icons that we played with throughout the game. And so that's sort of that. I think that each individual game was very quick to play. Like the box time says, it's about 20 minutes per game, and then you have 12 unique games that you can play. It does say somewhere in the rules that like once you've played through the campaign, or even if you haven't finished the campaign, if you want to, you could just play one episode or one game again, just for fun. So like now that we've played through all 12 of the games, we could just randomly pick one to play, or we could say like, oh, I really liked, chapter 3, episode 9 or whatever. That one was really fun. So let's play that one again and see if I can do better this time around. So it does have some limited replay. I mean, there's a huge pad here, right? So like we could replay this until we've used up all of this pad. However, it would be pretty much the same experience that you've had while you're playing the campaign. So I think the fact that, like there was 12 unique experiences in this box, obviously that is a decent chunk of replayability right off the bat, and then you can play those over and over and over again in sort of like any way that you want. You can either play through the campaign again, or you could just select a particular episode to play, or that kind of thing. So it does have a decent amount of replayability from like a materials standpoint. From a gameplay standpoint, now that we've played through the campaign, I think it was fun. I'm glad we did it. I don't know that I would do it again, however, because it is pretty quick. If like a friend of mine wanted to play through the whole campaign, because it's so fast, I don't think I would object. I don't think that I would suggest it either to replay through the campaign again now that we've done it. I also don't know that I would cherry pick a particular episode to replay. They were fun. All of them were interesting and unique, and I'm glad that we did it the first time around, but I just don't know that if I had to spend my very precious gaming time that I would ever say, like, let's play any one of these games ever again. Unless, like I said, somebody, wanted to play through this campaign or that kind of thing. I enjoyed the experience. It was nice to play sort of a quick, simple game that we managed. So we played the 4 chapters as individual experiences. So we sat down and we played all of chapter 1, which was 3 episodes. We sat down a separate time and played all of chapter 2, which was 3 more episodes. We sat down a third time and played all of chapter 3, which was 3 episodes. And then again, separately, chapter 4, which was 3 more episodes. So we got like 4 solid sessions out of this, where we sat down for about an hour and just played like 3 episodes every time we sat down. And it was very fun to sit down and play like a continuation of something we've been doing before, but something a little fresh, a little new. So I really enjoyed the time that I got to spend with Nick while we played through the campaign. Yeah. Like I said in the first video, I think that these dice are really clever. Very quickly, I'll just explain these in case you don't see our first video. The way that these dice work is you roll these 2 dice right here, and then you marry these 2 dots up, and they form a polynomial shape or a Tetris shape, and then that is the shape that you're drawing. But because of the way these dice are made, there are just a ton of different variations that you could come up with in polynomial shapes. And I think that that's really quite clever, a clever random polynomial generator. And then this die here told you how to fill in the shapes that you were drawing. So I think that these dice are really quite clever and unique and interesting. And I really liked the My City board game. I thought that was a really fun, simple campaign. Same thing, you sit down and you play through 3 games at a time. And then the next time you sit down, you play through 3 different games, through this overarching campaign. So we got about 4 solid gaming sessions out of this particular game. I think we got something similar out of the board game. And you could extend it further than that if you wanted to, right? Like each episode is a game and there's 12 episodes. So we could have actually extended this to be like 12 gaming sessions instead of playing multiple episodes at the same session. So we could have like extended its life by doing that as well. But they're just simple, quick games. So it was nice to kind of sit down and play through a few of those at a time. And then have a similar but different experience the next time we played, and so on. I think that now that we've played through both the board game and the roll and build campaigns, I still think I probably had a little bit more fun with the board game. I really love legacy style games, which are like single use games. You play through a set number of times, and every time you play, it's a little bit different than the last time you played. Because of permanent changes or additions or subtractions that you make to the game as you play. So you might cross out something on your player board, or you might rip up a card or add a sticker to something. I really love to play that way. I think it's a lot of fun. And I did enjoy the board game version of this because it has a lot of those elements. You're putting stickers on the board, you're ripping up cards, you're getting new gaming materials as you played new games and that kind of thing. I think it was a lot of fun. I think this gives you a similar flavor but a different feeling because it's roll and write, so you are rolling and writing things. There's no stickers, there's no cards, you're not destroying anything or really adding much other than new rules as you play through the campaign. So to me, it didn't really have the same sort of feel that like a typical legacy game has, or like the board game version of this had. So to me, I think I would still probably prefer to play the board game version of this. However, I think this is a really solid, like almost like a micro version of that experience, because you're doing the same sorts of things where you're placing polynomial shapes onto your boards and you're trying to, solve these puzzles that occur as you play. One of the main reoccurring themes throughout the whole campaign was that you're trying to group like building types together. So like I said, this die right here tells you which types of building you draw. So if I had rolled this result, for example, then I would draw this shape and fill it in with this sort of like fill in, and maybe it would be that or that instead. And throughout the whole game, the whole campaign, except the very, very beginning of the campaign, you're trying to group these things together. So, for example, in episode 11, for example, I had grouped a bunch of my X's together because that's worth more points than if they're separate. So that sort of those sorts of things are sticking with you from episode to episode, but you're also introducing new things in each episode that is keeping things fresh, keeping things new, keeping things interesting, that kind of stuff. And it doesn't get overly complex in doing that. They did a good job keeping it fresh, but not overloading us with new things to learn every single game. That was very rambly, but I think that's how I feel about My City Roll and Build. It was fun. I enjoyed the experience. I would definitely recommend both this one and the My City board game. And if you're going to start with one or the other, I would personally start with the board game. But I know the first time we talked about this, Nick had a sort of a different take on this. So, Nick, what do you think about this?
What do I think? So playing the rest of My City Roll and Build, I think a couple things. If you want more of a legacy game experience, play My City. It has the stickers, you rip up things, you alter things. If you want a nice, quick campaign game, go for My City Roll and Build. I feel like you could, if you were dedicated enough, you could finish this whole campaign within a day. But that's like power throughing it and just going, which is totally possible. You know, as board gamers, we sit down and 4 hours pass by and it feels like 10 minutes, or like 8 hours pass by because you're playing a heavier game, but still, like, the time passes quickly. But with this, it's just, when you're playing the roll and write, you're going and you're practically done. I wouldn't recommend playing an episode, stopping, and then coming back to another episode. I would just play an entire chapter. The chapters are fast.
I agree.
Yeah, the chapters are fast, and it's a nice game to get people that don't play board games often or are on the lighter side for the My City Roll and Build. But for the gamers that like the more heavier, not too much heavier, it's not too much heavier than My City.
I think it's actually lighter.
Well, you think it's lighter than My City?
I think it's lighter than the My City board game.
Yeah, because in the board game, you have your pieces already prearranged and you already know what's going to come out. But in My City, you have to, and the roll and write, you have to kind of be like, oh, well, you have to have a little bit of foresight, and you don't want to put yourself in a box to where you're going to get in trouble. So yeah, I think
I also think the strategies that they sort of like introduced to us in the board game were a little bit deeper strategies than the ones that they do in this one. In this one, it was like a lot of like, oh, as long as you don't cover over this kind of shape and you do cover over this kind of shape, then like you're good. But in the board game, there was a lot more like, oh, if you manage to get four different buildings around this particular thing, then you get extra points. And there was some elements of that in the roll and build as well, but it just felt like there were more of those sort of deeper strategy. And it's not real deep. It's not a complex game by any means, in my opinion. But it just felt like there were deeper strategies in the board game than there is in the roll and write. This definitely feels more introductory friendly, like Nick was saying. This definitely feels like a lighter experience to me. And I also think that this one is definitely more like grab and go. This doesn't take up any room at all except what you need for your tiny little sheet of paper and a little tiny bit of area to roll the dice. I mean, you could do it in the box lid if you really needed to, and it would be fine. It does have a solo version as well, and I think the board game did too, maybe?
I think so.
So even if you don't have anybody to play with, there is a way for you to play this by yourself. So you could, take this on a trip or that kind of thing, and it's very portable.
Yeah.
Not just in its size box-wise, but also like the play area required as well.
Cute. So yeah, if you want the more legacy experience, go with My City. If you want the quick roll and write campaign experience, go with My City Roll and Build. Now there is a third one coming out called My Island. My Island is coming out, and I think we'll be seeing that at Gen Con this year. I think also you might be able to see it at Origins this year, but we are not going to Origins, but we will be at Gen Con. So maybe we'll go ahead and see it and get some coverage of that game there if I get the time. Because we're going to be busy at Gen Con. We're real busy. So busy. But yeah, this is our part 2 of My City Roll and Build. We all hope you enjoyed it. If you got any questions or anything you want to ask them in the comments, and we'll answer them to the best of our abilities. But for now, we're going to go ahead and play more games. Hopefully you are getting some gaming in as well. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and do that. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you later.